Hello class, we're about to record the video for sections 5.4 and 5.5. Now 5.4 actually begins on page 525 through 530. So the problems that we're supposed to cover are 1 through 7 odd. So the problems that I am going to cover with you all in this lesson is 3, 5, and 7. So starting here with problem number 3, it says solve the following equations algebraically and check your results by graphing. So we have 3x all over 2x minus 1 equal 3. Now, what we want to do here, we want to make sure that we get x by itself. So first we need to get rid of this denominator by multiplying each side by 2x minus 1. Okay, these 2x minus 1s will simplify out. And you add 3x is equal to 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times a minus 1 is minus 3. Then we subtract 6x on both sides, and we add negative 3x equals negative 3. We divide each side by negative 3, and x is equal to positive 1. So now, you also have to make sure that this value that you give for x does not cause this denominator to equal 0, because we know that would make this problem undefined. And we notice here 1 does not do that. So this would be 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 1 is 2, minus 1 is 1, 3 divided by 1 is 3. So problem number 3 actually works. Okay, now we can do B now. This was A, now we do B. Now B, we have x plus 1 all over 5x minus 3, and that equals to 2. Now we have to get rid of this 5x minus 3 out of our denominator, so we'll multiply this whole equation by the 5x minus 3. Because remember, we're trying to get x by itself. So these 5x minus 3 simplify out, and you have x plus 1. And then we have 5x minus 3 times 2, so that will give us 10x minus 6. So remember, we're trying to get x by itself, so we can subtract x on both sides, and 1 is equal to 9x minus 6. Add 6 on both sides, and 7 is equal to 9x. Divide each side by 9, and 7 ninths is equal to x. And once you put 7 ninths into this problem here, it will actually give you 2 as well. Okay, now we go here to C. Now C, we have negative 7x divided by 2.8 plus x is equal to 3.1. Now, what we could do here, remember, we want to get x by itself. So we're going to multiply each side by 2.8 plus x. Okay. So now, this 2.8 plus x will simplify out. You got negative 7x. And you could take 3.1 times 2.8, which is 8.68, and 3.1 times x, which will give us 3.1x. Okay, now we can subtract 3.1x on both sides. So that'll give us negative 10.1x equals 8.68. Now I ran out of space here, so I'm going to have to finish this up over here. So we had negative 10.1x is equal to 8.68. Divide each side by negative 10.1. And then if you put this in your calculator, it's going to give you approximately negative 0.859. That is what x will equal to. Okay, now we move on to D. Now we have D. Now D is x plus 10 all over 3x plus 2. and that equals to 3. Now again, we multiply everything by the 3x plus 2, so we can get rid of that denominator. So the 3x plus 2 simplify out, and you add x plus 10 is equal to 9x plus 6. So you can subtract x on both sides, and 10 is equal to 8x plus 6. Subtract 6 on both sides, and 4 is equal to 8x. We'll divide each side by 8, and that'll be 1/2 is equal to x. And that will be your final answer. Okay, now we move on to problem number 5. Problem number 5 said the intensity of the human voice to the listener varies inversely as the square of the distance from the source. This is given by a formula similar to the ones from activity 5.2. Loudness of a voice can be given by I is equal to 1500 all over d squared. Okay, now it says where I is the decibels and d is the distance in feet. Now it says determine the distance from the source when the intensity of the sound is 15 decibels. Okay, so we would substitute in 15 for I, and now we would have to do the distance. So the first thing we would need to do is multiply each side by d squared, and we would have 15d squared is equal to 1500. We divide each side by 15, and d squared is equal to 100. Now to get rid of the square off of the 100, we would have to take the square root of both sides, square root of d squared, and then when we take the square root here, we have to put plus or minus in front of here, and that would be the square root of 100. Square root of d squared is d, and this would be positive or negative 10. And we know this is in feet, so we will put feet. Now we know a decibel level, we know as far as a distance level, a distance level, we know that our distance will not be negative. So the only one that makes sense is d is equal to 10 feet. That would be your final answer because you would not have negative feet. Okay, now we come to B. It says, what is the distance from the source when the intensity is 8,000 decibels? Okay, so basically we take this same problem, and we come here to B, and then we would take the I is equal to 1500 over d squared, and then they told us our intensity is 8,000. So we're still trying to find the distance. So we'll multiply each side by d squared, and we'll have 8,000 times d squared is equal to 1500. Divide each side by 8,000. And then once this simplifies out, you add d squared is equal to, now, what would end up happening here is this. When you divide this out, you can put this in a calculator. It'll be 0.1875. Then you have to take the square root of both sides, and this will be plus or minus the square root of 0.1875. So this will be d is approximately plus or minus 0.433 feet. Now remember, just as in the other problem, we cannot have negative feet. So our final answer would be d is approximately 0.433 feet. And that is basically it from that problem. Now we go here to our final problem, which is problem number 7. Okay, problem number 7 is on page 529. And it says here, the following formula is used by the NCAA to calculate the quarterback passing efficiency rating. Now, as you can see in your book, I'm just going to write that formula out. We have 8.4y plus 330t. Now kind of messed that up a little bit. Let me just get a fresh sheet of paper. So we would have R is equal to 8.4y plus 330t plus 100c minus 200i, all divided by A. Now it tells us R is the quarterback rating, A is the passes attempted, C is passes completed, Y is passing yardage, T is the touchdown passes, and I is the number of interceptions. In the 2017 regular season, Mason Rudolph, quarterback for Oklahoma State University, and Baker Mayfield, quarterback for the University of Oklahoma, had the following player statistics. Now we see those. It says determine the quarterback rating for Mason Rudolph for the 2017 NCAA season. Okay. So we have R is equal to, now this is A. R is equal to, we would have 8.4, and then we would have 4,904. That was the yardage, plus 330 times 37, that's number of touchdown passes, plus 100 times 318, that's how many passes were completed, minus 200 times 9, that is the number of interceptions, all divided by 489, which is the passes attempted. Now, when we put this in our calculator, our R would be 170.6 when we round it to the nearest tenth. So that would be the rating. Okay, now our next thing, we have B. It says determine the quarterback rating for Baker Mayfield. So we basically do the same formula, but just using Baker's stats. So we have 4,627 plus 330 times 43 plus 100 times 285 minus 200 times 6, all divided by 404. And so this quarterback's rating is 198.9, rounded to the nearest 10. Okay, now it says visit the NCAA website and select stats to determine the passing efficiency rating of your favorite quarterback. We don't have to do that, so we would just be done with A and B, and we're actually done with section 5.4. Now, we're going to mosey on over here to section 5.5, and we're supposed to do problems 1, 3, 5, and 6. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have us do problem number 3 and problem number 6. And we're on page 537. So if we look on page 537 at number 3, it says the custodian in the mathematics building can buff the main floor 2 minutes faster than his supervisor can. If working together, they can buff the floor in 35 minutes. How long does it take the supervisor working alone to buff the main floor of the mathematics building? Hint, let T represent the supervisor's time and T minus 2 represent the custodian's time. So for number 3, we will have our formula of 1 over T plus 1 over T minus 2 is equal to 1 over 35. So we have the supervisor's time, we have the custodian's time, and then we have the time that it takes them together. So what we need to do, we need to get T by itself. So the first thing we would do is take a look at all of these denominators and take the least common denominator. And the least common denominator here would basically be the 35T times T minus 2. That would be our least common denominator. So these t's will simplify out and be 35 times t minus 2. These t minus 2's will simplify out, and then it'd be plus 35t. These 35's will simplify out and leave you t times t minus 2. Okay, so now what you would do, you would multiply this out. You add 35t minus 70 plus 35t is equal to t squared minus 2t. All right, so this will leave us 70t minus 70 is equal to t squared minus 2t. So we would add 2t on both sides. Well, actually, no. We should actually move the 70t and the 70 because we typically don't want our variable squared to be negative. So we'll subtract 70t and add 70 on both sides. So this will give us 0 is equal to t squared minus 72t plus 70. Now what we would have to do, because this is a quadratic, this is in quadratic form, we could do the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we could list these coefficients. A is 1, b is negative 72, and c is 70. And we substitute in the values. And actually, I should have put t instead of x. So we add t is equal to the opposite of negative 72 plus or minus the square root of negative 72 squared minus 4 times 1 times 70 all over 2 times 1. Now I'm going to have to take this over to another page. So what we would have is t is equal to 72 plus or minus the square root of, and this end up being 72 squared minus 4 times 70 all over 2. Now when we put all this in our calculator, our t would be approximately 71 for 1 with the plus or minus. Okay, now if you look at this here, we know that these are in minutes. It's either 71 minutes or 1 minute. Now we know that the supervisor takes a longer time to buff the floor than the custodian, and T is the amount of the supervisor. So then it wouldn't make sense that the supervisor could do it in 1 minute, but when they work with the custodian, it's 35 minutes and the custodian works faster. So the only one that makes sense is the T equals 71. So basically, T equals 71 minutes. So we could say the supervisor completes the job in 71 minutes. Okay. And so that takes care of problem number 3. And so now we're going to move on to problem number 6 on page 538. Okay, so it says solve each of the following formulas for the indicated variable. Express your answer as a single fraction. All right, so we have 6a, which is 1 over a plus 2 over b is equal to 3 over c, and it says solve for a. Okay, so we want to get a by itself. So the first thing that we should do is get rid of all of these denominators. So we'll multiply everything by the common denominator of a, b, c. So the a's will simplify out, and this will be bc. The b's will simplify out, and this will be 2ac. The c's will simplify out, and it'll be 3ab. Now remember, we're trying to get a by itself. So we would subtract 2ac on both sides. and we have BC is equal to 3AB minus 2AC. So now what we could do here, we could factor out an A. So we have BC, we'll factor out an A, and we add 3B minus 2C. So we have BC, let me write that again, is equal to A times 3B minus 2C. We'll divide each side by 3B minus 2C. And then the answer would be BC over 3B minus 2C is equal to A. And that will be our final answer. Okay, now, the next step, we will go to 6B. All right, now, with 6B, we will have 1 over x plus y is equal to 1 over z. And we're solving for x. So now we need to get rid of these denominators. So we'll multiply everything by z times x plus y. So the x plus y simplify out, and we'll have z is equal to, and then these z's will simplify out and leave x plus y. So z is equal to x plus y, and we could subtract y on both sides, and we'll have z minus y is equal to x. And that takes care of 6b. Now finally, we come here to 6c. It's 1 over a plus 2 over b is equal to 3 over c, and we're going to solve for c. So we'll multiply everything by the common denominator, which is ABC. So the A's will simplify out and you will have BC. The B's will simplify out and you will have 2AC. And the C's will simplify out and you have 3AB. Now remember, we want to get C by itself. So we can factor out a C. And we have B plus 2A is equal to 3AB. Now we would divide each side by B plus 2A. So our final answer would be C is equal to 3AB divided by B plus 2A. And this is our final answer. And we're done with section 5.5.